And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. What do we have? The Fun Stuff Enterprise.
It's got fun stuff, man. You can have all you want with these guys.
Yay!
Hey,
There will be stuff that we not want, but need.
I know. So, we've got a couple of things. So we've got an order today of enterprise funds, starting with public works, then golf course, convention center, performing arts, airport, McAllen Metro, and bridges. However, we've had some discussion on compensation, and on both meetings, city commissioners and mayor asked about it. So what we want to do is we want to start that discussion, so we make sure that hopefully that we complete it, and then we'll go through those departments. I also want to tell you that there is something that I want to discuss with the commission in executive session. And originally, I was going to do it at the beginning of the meeting, but we had too many things to excuse, so we'll go ahead and get started. And I know some of you may have to leave early. If you do, I'd like to go into executive at least for 10 or 15 minutes before anyone leaves, because it's important that I have as many people as possible. And obviously Omar is not in today, so if all that sounds okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so we want to go back to the compensation. One of the questions that was asked at our last meeting was about our plan. When we did the plan a few years ago, we had a 7-year plan. That doesn't mean that after 7 years you solve every problem that there is in the world. And so we're going to have to look at that again here soon. But we wanted to remind you of what that was, and then how you executed that, and how close we were doing the things that we said we thought we needed to do in order to slow down that turnover process that we identified. So with that, I'm going to have Jeff and Christina start, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have.
So Mayor, Commissioners, thank you again for the opportunity to talk a little bit about compensation for the employees. What I'd like to do is start off with a review of that 7-year plan that Roy just mentioned, and kind of talk a little bit about how we got where we are. You'll recall that during the summer of 2019, during the budget process, we started a discussion. During that conversation, we talked about the fact that we were going to recommend a 2% salary increase or cost of living increase. We also talked about adding some floating holidays, which you'll see on the screen here, 3 floating holidays, and then permission from the commission to do a compensation study. The commission approved those recommendations along with the 7-year plan that was put in place to identify some of the issues that we're facing in the workforce. In fiscal year 20 and 2021, we proposed a 2% cost of living adjustment. And while that 2% cost of living adjustment was not approved, the commission did approve a 1% one-time adjustment in December of 2020. And the commission also approved 1 additional holiday as well as an adjustment to the vacation accrual schedule, which was much needed. In fiscal year 21-22, we also proposed a 2% cost of living adjustment. That 2% was approved, and it was included in the compensation study that was implemented on October the 1st of 2021. In fiscal year 22-23, we proposed a 3% COLA along with implementation of longevity. The 3% was approved, and we were directed to continue working on that longevity plan. And so for fiscal year 23-24, we had proposed a 3% COLA and implementation of longevity. This commission has tentatively approved the longevity effective 10/1 of 23. And the current budget proposal that you see reflects a 1.5% cost of living adjustment. So I wanted to talk to you briefly about turnover as we see it in the city of McAllen. And the chart really shows us why these topics are important. Back in 27 and 2018, we were seeing an increase in turnover with our workforce here at the city of McAllen. The commission took action at that point in time, and we saw a decrease, as you can see, in 2019 and 2020. But now the numbers are going up again. Last year in 2022, we saw over 17% turnover, and based on our current trend, we're going to be very close to that again this year. It's going to be the upper 16, low 17% range. And so we've got to do some work to try to reverse that. I'm going to have Christina Juarez talk to you a little bit in more detail about the specifics related to that turnover trend.
So in terms of trends, we are seeing, and you've seen
slide before where it shows the turnover for 2022. The majority of our turnover occurs with those less than 2 years of service. And then goes up a little bit between the 2 to 5 and then drops down. The 20 plus years shows a little bit of an increase, but that's not really a concern for us. Those are typically people that are at retirement age. So far, year to date, this is our turnover, very similar to 2022, where the majority of our turnover is occurring with those with less than 2 years of service. And then in terms of generations in the workforce, this is another trend that we're seeing. So back in 2019, we had 5 generations, so we still had some from the silent generation represented. However, those are no longer in our current workforce. And you'll see that the millennial and Gen X bubbles here are a little bit bigger to represent that they do make up the majority of our current workforce. This is what our workforce looks like by generation in 2022. Baby boomers make up 7% of our workforce, Gen X 35%, millennials being 44%, and then Gen Z 14%. That Gen Z is the generation that we're going to start to see grow a little bit more as the years come. The turnover by generation for 2022 again mirrors what the workforce is. So while baby boomers make up 7% of our workforce, they also account for 12% of our turnover, which makes sense. I mean, they're at retirement age. However, the millennials make up 44% of our workforce, but they account for 51% of our turnover. So it shows that, this is a group that we've got to look into because something is not making a mistake, keeping them. This is one that we thought was really interesting, that we're noticing a downward trend in the number of applications that we receive. So pre-pandemic, we were at closer to the 24,000 range. Of course, during COVID, 2020 and 21, we saw a dip in that. Most likely due to the fact that people were getting that federal assistance and were scared to go back to the workforce. In 2022, they went up, but we still have not reached that pre-pandemic level, and so that is also a concern that we have the vacancies, the turnover, and we're not receiving the same number of applications. Jobs in the trades field are difficult to fill because construction is up, and so the private sector does pay more. Heavy equipment operators are also difficult to recruit because now the state or the federal government has required additional requirements in order to obtain the CDL, so that adds another challenge. But we do have a couple of things in the works. So with the implementation of Oracle, that should help make the application experience better for the applicant as well as the departments, and of course more efficient. And then of course we approved another recruiter for our department, which will also help distribute that workload a lot better and increase or maximize our recruitment opportunities. This slide shows our resignations are primarily in the entry grades, the entry-level grades. And so in 2021 and 2022, there's that consistent pattern that, in the entry-level grades is where we lose the majority of our positions. And it also lists the top positions that we receive the most resignation from. Something to note between 2021 and 2022, even though that we are seeing the same grades have that resignation, the number or the total that resigned is higher, but that obviously mirrors the turnover that we showed you earlier where 2021 and 2022 we saw that increase in turnover.
So I wanted to talk just briefly about cost of living adjustments. We've obviously been tracking that for years, and what I wanted to show you was some other cities and what they've done with cost of living adjustments. There are a few cities that we haven't heard back from. We're unable to get a complete set for the entire valley. And some of the smaller cities we left off the list, but as an example, a few things will stand out. You're going to notice the city of FAR at the bottom shows a 0% for the entire scope of the study. They don't tend to do across-the-board cost of living adjustments. The city of FAR has a process where they pick specific groups within the organization and adjust them separately. So it's a very different process that they're using in their city. You've also seen, for instance, City of Brownsville, we don't have a cost of living since 2015 for the City of Brownsville. But you can also look at the different cities listed there and what they have been doing. Obviously, the reason cost of living adjustments are important is it helps us to make sure that our employees are as close as possible compensation-wise in comparison to the rest of the market. So then going back to kind of wrap this up, going back to the 7-year plan, here's a summary of where we are, and obviously with the progress we've made, we want to be sure that we continue with that progress. For fiscal year 23-24, the 7-year plan recommended a 3% COLA and the implementation of longevity pay. And of course, you see, as we mentioned before, the current budget includes a 1.5% as well as the implementation of longevity. There's a couple other things I want to mention before we open it up for questions too. One of them was when we started the 7-year plan back in 2019, we were recommending starting the next compensation study in fiscal year 24-25 to gather the information and then implement the next compensation study adjustment in fiscal year 25-26. While we were delayed a year because of COVID, our recommendation is going to be that we keep that same schedule for the next overall compensation study, because I think what we're seeing here is we may have a need to look again at the market and make sure that we're continuing to be competitive. Part of that's important because once we finished our study, previously, since then, South Padre Island has already implemented a new compensation study that took effect after ours. Brownsville has done one, and they are in the process of implementing theirs now. Edinburgh is in the process of doing their compensation study. They should be implementing that within the next year. And then the City of Harlingen is also working on theirs. So as surrounding cities continue to make sure that they're staying competitive, it just means we have to continue to do the same thing. The last thing I'll mention along those lines too is, if you remember, when we implemented our compensation study several years back, the goal of the study, as recommended, was to put us at market. And if you think about that, it means, in essence, to put us at the 50th percentile when it's implemented, which works great until the first city close to us makes an adjustment to compensation, and then we're automatically below the 50th percentile because someone else has moved up somewhere in the range. And so one of the recommendations that we'd like to make to the commission is to consider somehow, when we do the next compensation study, to find some way to get ahead of that 50th percentile. If you think about it, if every compensation study we try to get right at the 50th percentile, then we are either at or behind midpoint forever. If we can find a way to get ahead of that midpoint and maybe work back to midpoint, it will ensure that the city is remaining competitive in comparison to its peers. So if we want to get to the 75th percentile, we need something so that during those years between comp studies, it's easier to ensure that our employees are remaining competitive. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, we have the groups. Do we know the whys?
We've had, the reasons for separation, yes, I don't have those with me to hand out, but we do conduct exit interviews where we get that information. The biggest one is just better opportunities, which we can kind of assume to mean something like better pay, but there are various factors that we can provide.
Well, it could mean I just want to get out of it, because especially it's the age group of the millennials, which have less responsibilities, less marriage, less children, less home ownership, less and less work ethic, I believe too, and I might be offending some people, but to me, I think that's correct. So I think one of the issues we have is that we keep on adjusting everything, and I think you all know that this commission has been very good with employees, and I think we should always, but the problem I see is that age group. The ones coming in and coming out, do they have the work ethic here, and if they go somewhere else, are they going to be doing the same? So how do we fix it? By just keep on throwing money at them, or what? And will that fix work ethic?
If I could, I would say there's several factors that go into that. When we did the initial study, part of what we looked at is what are the issues that are important to each generation. With the younger workforce generations, part of what they see as important is the ability to have more flex time, to have more flexibility with their schedule. They're not as interested in a rigid 8 to 5. They want more opportunities to enjoy life and do things with their family. Part of what this commission did here in the last 3 years was to add additional vacation days to get us to midpoint in comparison to the rest of the peer cities around us, to add additional floating holidays. So I think some of that has helped, but what we're faced with is a workforce that's coming in, and I don't know, I'm just gonna give you my opinion. Some of what we can do as an organization is to work to train them to realize, this is what work is like. And at the same time, there's a certain amount of us as an organization making some changes to be more appealing to them that's going to be equally important. And so financial compensation definitely is one of those. I will tell you, we have regular conversations with the city manager on a variety of issues to try to see if we can find other opportunities that can be appealing to them. The pet day that we talked about here recently, doing more of those types of things as well to try to make sure that we're appealing to younger generations.
May I ask this, with all respect to it, this is the human resource side of bringing us information and hiring and getting the feedback when they're leaving. I'd like to have feedback from the department heads that actually work with the people that we have. And see what they're seeing. Why is there 47% of our employees that we're employing, okay, leaving within 2 years? Is that a correct statement, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they're saying. But within those that have come in within 2 years, 47% of leaving. Right? That's what it says. Now I'd like to see the department head. Why do you think that they're leaving, and why? Maybe it's good that they are, but I'm not saying what can we do?
Please.
And we can add, and what departments are we talking about? That's a big number, but are we talking, what's the age of the people leaving? Is it the millennials, or is it older people that come in and go out? Because to me, a lot of the times, less responsibility the younger you are, the less responsibility.
Well, let's hear. Who wants to be the first person?
Go ahead, and then Liz, and then everybody. I want to hear.
The convention center's a different animal. We work late nights and we work weekends, and we have a 24-hour operation. Between events, we have to do a lot of changeovers. So an event finishes at 11 p.m. We have a crew that comes in at 11 and sets up for 6 o'clock in the morning so that the next client can have the facility turned over. So in regards to convention center, it is that work-life balance. And it is difficult to rehire positions, like Christy mentioned, especially in trades. We have an HVAC position that's been open for over 6 months because the private sector is paying double what we can pay. So it's difficult for us to fill the open positions that we have, and it's difficult for us to retain staff because there's only a few people that are that passionate about.
Are you seeing that the 1 year and 2 year employees are leaving?
Yes, and for us, it's definitely the millennials and the Gen Z. I think that work-life balance is a bit more of a priority for them than older generations. There has been a shift since COVID, and I don't know if it's because of COVID or what has happened, but we do see our younger employees leave, and we had a huge turnover with COVID, and we're trying to get back to those levels.
think
I think
it's,
it's easy to get accustomed to easy stuff, which unfortunately I think COVID got a lot of people accustomed to, hey, you don't have to work hard. And we need to change that somehow. But I don't know whether it's just throwing money at them, especially the younger generation, because I don't see the older ones, the ones with actual responsibilities. I think most of the issues we're gonna have is gonna be the younger people. The younger, Generation X and the coming Z. So what do we do?
Let me add something. So, let's go down memory lane. The reason that we had all of these issues that we felt that we had to deal with, COLA, floating holiday, vacation, longevity, sick, salary, and so on, was that very thing. Some of these are more important to millennials than where you were than other generations. And so certain things are more important than others. Pay is important to everybody, but more so to a certain generation. Flexibility is more important to the younger people, right? They just are. This thing, bring your dogs and cats to work, that's about them. I would never think of doing that, but guess what? That's the people that are working for us. So we try to identify what's important to each generation, and then we have to also identify what our weaknesses were. And let me tell you, we were not in a good place, okay? We were the city with the least amount of holidays, the least, okay, in the whole Rio Grande Valley, McAllen, Texas. Had the least vacation in the Rio Grande Valley. So when we came up with this chart, we were trying to hit the average. We weren't trying to be the best. And so, so we were doing those things. And then in compensation, folks, that's just the reality. We are not the highest paid city in the valley. We just finished a compensation, the collective bargaining agreement for police. We're trying to catch another city in the valley, okay? Because two of them were ahead of us. It's gonna take us 2 years to catch them. And then hopefully they'll slow down and we'll keep rising. So we really feel that the things that we've identified are absolutely necessary. We're not doing enough. And the reason that we put 1.5% into the budget is real simple. We saw the request from the departments from a capital outlay point of view, and it was big bucks. It was big dollars. So we wanted to make sure that we took all of those priorities into account, especially in the general fund. And so we plugged in 1.5%, but we know that's not enough.
right.
We just know that. And so I would say that we're on the right track, other than in 2020, 21, which was COVID, we pretty much hit what we said we needed to do, except for that 1 year that we did a one-time adjustment for it. But this was an intensive amount of work that we did. So do we need a cost of living adjustment? Absolutely. The 1.5% not enough.
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah, I just wanted to fill in. You're gonna hear from all of us, sir. Rita, Denny, the bigger departments, Rich.
So I mean, it's difficult because you have, for example, we have transit operators, drivers. I mean, we've kind of gone into wage wars with other agencies, the school district, with other transit agencies across the valley, and it's taken us doing a $2,000 sign-in bonus, sending them to school, and get somebody that's not a regular traditional CDL driver, put them into school, and then get a CDL driver in return. And there's so many things that we've had to do, and it's difficult to pinpoint what exactly we need to do for every single position and every single generation, because it takes, I would say it's kind of an art. You know, you have to know how to deal with the different type of employees. If you have a clerical position that is responsible for doing dispatching versus a driver versus a manager, and so as managers, we have to be able to kind of mitigate through that and figure out how we retain our different employees. And you mentioned throwing money at them. I don't think it's throwing money at them. I think we have to get them in the door, and that's
You have to get them what?
in the door, and then we retain them, right? But we get them in the door if they're looking at different positions across different agencies, across different industries. They're going to go where they're going to potentially get more
So you're really not, you're saying that you're not getting people that have the qualifications coming in to.
Just as an example, the days of the professional driver
Right.
are over. And so we need to kind of reinvent that position, right? And through different avenues, and we have partnerships with SCC and with other higher institutions to get those positions that we need, and a lot of them are front line.
Get them accredited, get them the proper
Let's go learn how to
certification.
double dust a second.
But again, the pay is very important because it's going to get them in the door, and then we can figure out how do we, maybe it's not a transactional thing that they're looking for. They're looking for more inspirational, and so we figure out what we implement to make them want to come to their job, because they might not always be I guess after necessarily just the money. They also want to make sure that they feel good in their employment. So
Public Works,
Yeah, you know, the
big
competition,
department.
yes, the competition now is pretty fierce out there after COVID. It's been very, very challenging for us to attract some of the skilled and trade work like our,
We have competition with who?
with the private sector and other cities as well. And so, and the regulations have changed as well. So now CDL, if you want to go get your CDL, you've got to go through a specific school and pay thousands of dollars to get your CDL. And so many people are not wanting to take that. So we have to get real creative to see what it is that we can offer to attract them. We're not even attracting them to apply for the positions that we have. That's certainly the case with our fleet maintenance technicians. They're technicians now. They're no longer called mechanics because they're having to do with technology. All these vehicles are now technology. And the challenge of finding the vehicles and the resources that we need to provide the services is getting really challenging as well. So we're having to now go from American-made to foreign vehicles. So here in the next few months, we're going to get Toyotas. So we're going to have to learn to work on Toyota vehicles. Most of the employees that we pull when they're leaving is either pay and room for advancement is what they usually mention.
For the airport, it's been very challenging. When we look at our very technical skill set that is required for our operations specialists and for our maintenance team. The tools that the city manager has given us have been bare minimal essential tools. We have 3 commercial airports within a 60-mile radius. Of those 3 airports, we are the busiest. We have the highest requirement for federal index of an airport. We have to be ready for high-level emergencies, and our staff is extremely skilled, but they're all paid less than some of these local airports. It's less work, it's more pay, and they're able to grow their technical skill set in those airports just like they're able to grow them in McAllen. So there's a combination of factors that go into how we're able to retain, but we really do struggle with that pay disparity. And we struggle at every level. We work very closely with our city manager to address isolated issues, but we have the top performing airport in South Texas, and definitely that's not reflected in the pay.
For parks, I think it's twofold. We have the frontline staff on parks who basically go out and find other jobs, higher paying jobs to support them, right? That's the number one thing we see there. On the recreation side, more of the professionals with a degree is that work-life balance. We see the 20 to 30-year-olds coming in, not knowing what the expectations of those positions are. Yeah, they're long. We work 6-7 hours at times. We work 15-hour days for some of those superintendent positions. But again, it's they don't understand when they're coming in with the news. You can only tell them so much from the interview process of this is what our expectations are. Many don't have that passion. Some of the older employees that I do have on the team that have been there for 5 or 10 or 15 years. And so it's getting into that level of understanding what we exactly do for the community, what it takes to get that job. But it's definitely a work-life balance with the 20 to 30-year-old that we've seen one or 2 years, and then we go find
For us at the golf course, I think we're very similar to convention center. We open to the public 364 days a year, from 6:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And I echo what Mayor Villalobos said. We can get him in here, and I'm not 100% sure that pay is what we need, even though we do need it to get him in here. What we struggle with is being able to keep them, because we have to bring in our grounds crew at 4:30 every morning, Monday through Sunday, and have the golf course ready to open at 7 o'clock. At least from what I have seen in the last 4 years, that has been the most challenging aspect of being able to retain people. The fact that they don't want to work weekends, they don't want to work holidays, and they definitely don't want to come in at 4:30 in the morning, so.
So you're different, Carlos. If I had to come in at 4:30, I could too.
No, we're able to get them in, but the lower level positions are the ones that we struggle to keep.
But that's not that unusual. That happens at Public Works, that happens at parks. A lot of employees are in at 5 a.m., 4:30. So, same thing. I mean, if somebody's got to be in at 4:30 versus 8, they want a little higher pay, right? Because they're not going to sleep as much. So, it all comes back to the same thing. Juan?
We're fortunate that we're doing well financially, and we can do what we need to do. My only concern is, we don't want to be the trendsetters and government versus government, because the public, what they see is, hey, y'all just get taxes, y'all can do whatever y'all need to do. So that's the only concern. But I think we're fortunate that we have the funds to do what we gotta do, stay competitive, but we just gotta, keep the eye on the ball and make sure that, we don't get out of control.
That's actually a daily discussion that we have. I bet I have a department head in my office every day discussing some position in the organization. That's reality. And so when you've got 17% turnover and the public is expecting you to pick up their trash and have water when you turn the faucet, and for that water to disappear when you flush the toilet, I mean, those are the essentials. We have some departments that do some, I'll call them extraordinary things, in that they're not the essentials, the golf course and the convention center. But when you have to have that delivery of service 7 days a week, you have to have bodies working. And when you have 400 people leave the city a year, we have a problem, and we have to figure out how to fix it. What?
Mayor, just real quick, we have a large percentage of our workforce are toll collectors. They start off at $14.10 an hour. HB starts off at 15. So most of the competition is right there. Our custodians, they have to be not only background by the city, but they have to be cleared by the federal government. So they're top shape, top-notch, clear records. They start off at $13, $14 an hour. They get taken away by the hospitals as soon as they get 3-4 months. So that's our pays to big factor.
Yeah, I think it is effective, because I Saturday home for breakfast and I saw a friend that worked for the city, and she just said that, really, you need to do something about the pay, because everybody's leaving. What do you mean everybody's leaving? Yeah, a lot of them are going to Edinburgh. Yep. I said, whoa, one budget, let's see.
What does that person do?
No names.
No, I really am interested. What position is that person in? Do you know?
She, fire department. No, but she was just saying that, and it's true. We know it.
No, it's true. No, I was just curious.
Well, let's take care of business.
Yeah. I mean, I think as a whole, this is what every business is going through. So through the discussion, I get the impression that we're saying McAllen has a problem.
Well, yeah.
It's not necessarily a problem. This is what's happening just across the entire workforce. At the bank, we have a 30% turnover, primarily all of it on the front retail side, right? College kids, high school kids, tellers. So we also have to kind of break out, higher level employees, the skill set jobs, figure out how to retain those and how to make sure that we can keep what would be the most essential and the ones that are harder to replace. In owning businesses, I'm telling you, we're paying $3-4 more an hour than what was to some extent still considered market because it's difficult to find people to work. When you've got an unemployment rate nationally that is so low that everyone's got 2 opportunities to each individual, and you've got an unemployment rate that the Fed themselves wants to increase. You've never been really in a time where the Fed wants to increase unemployment. That's what they're trying to do. I know we're closer to 6% in the Rio Grande Valley, but it's about as low as it's ever been. So I think McAllen's in a strong position. I don't think we're being reactionary to current times. We started this whole plan in 19 with planning even before then. And so I've been one that once you kind of create a plan, you stick to it, you see it through. I think we've seen benefit from it. There's residual effects as far as attitude, culture, positivity that I think gets reinforced when you instill things like this, right? Because we get so honed in on the numbers that you've got to remember all the intangibles that you're creating and the benefit that you're creating in the long run. And to I think city management's point, getting to just the average or to try to get to the median is really what this is about. I don't think we're trying to kind of fight with other cities necessarily. I don't think we use the other cities as a benchmark, but I don't think we ever started on this plan just trying to fight with other cities, right? And kind of play that tug of war. I think this is going to be an issue that's going to go on for a good while, especially with skilled jobs. Skilled jobs are always going to be in high demand. There's always going to be a shortage, but we've got to attract them. And I think a lot of times, depending on the department, I think each department maybe needs to make sure. I don't know if y'all do these kinds of studies for individual departments and give them their own set of data to say this is what's happening within your subset, because we see it as a whole, but there's some that might be doing significantly better than others, right? And they all have their own, they're just so different. You really can't compare convention center employee issues to public works, to city hall. I mean, it's just, to me, they're so different. So if I was a department head, I'd say, I'd like this information for my 50, 60 employees or my 200 employees. I want to see how I break out to see, maybe how I can address it. Because you can address it at the hiring stage as well. Let's not forget that, right? Hiring is critical, and I know sometimes you need to fill in the positions, but hiring appropriately makes a big, big difference in the long run. And then I'm not sure how the departments handle it or how city management handles it, but in onboarding, there should be, the day they come on, the same day, there should be a discussion about career planning, future opportunities. I don't know if each department has an org chart. They should be able to see kind of directions they can move in, what the future opportunities might lie. And if they say, hey, what's this position about? Say, well, this requires this requires this, requires these. But if you stick with it, you do these certifications or these kinds of things, we can help you get there. But people also have to be able to see opportunities that are available to them, right? Most of us figure out opportunities just by working within an environment, and then you kind of see where people move around. But there should be some level of career planning for certain jobs, I think, and that should be discussed with employees. That helps retain them as well, for them to have an outlook and then to feel that that's being supported. So
The only problem is if they're quitting within 2 years, I don't even think they get to the chance of
typically the ones 2 years and under are the ones that are going to be the most difficult to address.
And
that's at every institution.
And a lot of them are unskilled anyway.
Yeah.
So
Right.
especially in our line of work. Remember, we're a service provider.
Yes.
We pick up trash and fix potholes, and that's really what we do. There are other things that the city that our size does, but that's the essence of what we do. And so those are the folks that are going to leave, right? Because they're gonna say, I don't want to be up at 5:30 in the morning being in the truck. So
Pues in the future, we could get by department and the exit interviews, the reasons. That way, kind of like what we're doing right here. I think that would help out to see, because not all departments are the same. Like hell, I want to be here at 4:30. You know, and if that's the reason, what else can we possibly do? Different type of
Great
things.
time of the day.
But Roy, what are we looking to do?
Well, obviously, we're recommending that, that 1.5% be increased and that we follow that plan. We've got the resources to do it. Like we said on the first meeting, we should be looking at least 3%.
Well, I think, like I stated before, we have the resources. McAllen has to be the best, retain the best. But also we gotta balance it out. We cannot be the pace setters to be setting the pay for the rest of the areas. And if somebody picks up, oh, so we just gotta balance it. But, I mean, I recommend it. If that's what we need to do, we need to do.
Now, just FYI, because you'll read it, the 3% does trigger a Me Too clause in the fire department. They're scheduled to receive 2.5%, and because they have that in their contract, it will mean that they will get 3% also. But that's a $69,000 figure. It's not a big deal, and we recommend we do it.
I recommend so too. Commission?
Okay, if no other questions, we're gonna start with who? Public Works.
Public Works.
Elvira, I have a wish list on this one.
All right, so they're all ready?
So they're gonna go in order, Mayor and Commissioners here, so if you go to tab 2, other than what she just handed out, you can follow her in that book.
And this is the latest and greatest too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Angie, for that.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.
No, she's gonna have a book for every day of the budget session, so you'll be able to follow along.
All right, so the first sheet that you see behind the red tab is our sanitation fund working capital. I'm happy to say that it's in strong shape. It's good. It does reflect a rate increase for residential and commercial accounts. So that sheet of paper that was those handouts actually reflect the impact and the comparison to the surrounding communities. So if you look at the first one, it says $1 increase. That'll be for residential accounts. We're proposing $1. The $1 will be higher than Edinburgh, than Westlaco, and Mission by very few cents. I spoke to the director in Mission last week, and they're proposing a $1 increase as well. So we'll only be over Mission and Edinburgh and Westlaco. The second sheet is a rate increase for commercial accounts, commercial establishments. That's a 10% increase. The rate is changing from $84.64 to $93.10, and we will be competitive with most cities. Harlingen and Edinburgh are the only ones that are going to be slightly lower than us.
That is every month, right?
Yes. These are monthly fees, yes, sir.
When was the last time you increased?
In November 2018. 2018.
So the current residential is 14?
Yes. And the third sheet is for roll-off services. 10% as well. We're going from $174.89 to $192.38. Now that one is a haul rate. It's not a monthly rate. It's per service.
Per service.
Yes, sir. And that rate will only be higher than Harlingen.
One of the problems in a lot of cities is they don't have it.
Correct.
They might want them, but you gotta get into a list because they don't have the boxes, the roll-offs, that's a big problem.
That's the only service that we compete with the private sector. The other services.
And some of the cities have private sector.
Yes, sir.
And I don't mind being a little over some of the cities, because actually I think I'm a good cheerleader for McAllen. You provide the best services, sometimes it has to be just a little bit more. I mean, because you can't compare the services we provide to some of the other municipalities, so I have no problem with that.
Thank
And
you.
these are you're welcome. No, thank you guys. Now, and this is what I think you were asking me about. What do you call these?
Roll-offs?
The roll-offs. Do we have enough of those?
We never have enough votes. Yes.
Because that's one of the things we were talking about, and I don't know if it's in another section. Yeah, but I can't see it.
We are
You're
gonna
asking
go,
for 12, but how many of those are replacements and how many are new?
most of them are new. They last pretty, they take a beating, but it's heavy duty metal, so they last us about 8 to 10 years. We've got some that are 20 years old, so those are the ones we have to phase out. We try to extend the life of them as much as we can.
Elvira, but the ones you're asking for are for the green ones, huh?
Yes,
Not the yellow ones.
not the yellow, no, that's Tina Gallen. They buy their own.
She's requesting 12 and we're recommending 12.
Yes.
Okay, is that enough?
For this year, yes.
But enough, like, when somebody in a neighborhood requests something, which is it that they request? The
They'll-
yellow, I don't know the
No, the
difference.
businesses request.
Businesses.
Okay.
Primarily.
Yes, and they pay for them.
Okay.
Who's your
And the
biggest,
ones we do the neighborhood cleanups, those are K&B.
Yeah.
Yes.
So who's your biggest consumer for roll-offs? Is it contractors?
The contractors, most definitely.
But we're good enough with that number.
Yes, sir.
So the 20s or the 40s? Or you're gonna 6 and 6 or?
Well,
We're
there's,
here in various
they're
sizes.
requesting
We got
4
20,
40s.
30, and 40.
Roll-ons, yeah.
Most of them are
And they're
40.
requesting 12 of the,
Yes.
Do we have a general depreciation fund that would cover this, or?
Not for containers, we have
Okay.
it only for vehicles.
Vehicles.
And equipment,
That's what-
but not containers.
Okay.
For the most part, we're good with sanitation fund. If you want to go by department, we can. Under composting, everything was approved as requested. Residential, same thing. In residential, we are reclassifying a mechanic, a refuse mechanic to a driver, because we need more drivers than we do mechanics in that particular area. In commercial box for the commercial services, again, additional driver. In the brush department, we're getting everything that we requested. In cleaning,
Well, let's talk about street cleaning. I think,
can I have some water?
one of the things, and I keep on bringing this up, Tampico. We went there, I had never been so impressed with a city like Tampico. And once we went there, I think who went there? Rudy, Pepe. We were amazed with Tampico, how clean it was. And I'm talking about even the streets, the curbs and everything. And I have never realized until I came back that we may have some issues. If you look at the curbs, and actually now I see it everywhere. Grass on the asphalt, dirt and rocks on the curbs, and all that type of deal. I came to, Keep McAllen Beautiful, and discuss some of the issues that I hope we can implement, like they did over there at Tampico, McAllen, with a lot of different things that I think that it can help us change the culture of our area, to start thinking differently. And I'm talking from putting carts in the grocery stores to maybe cleaning your own damn curb or different type of things. If we can start doing something, I think McAllen is the nicest around, but I think it can even be better. And one of the things I was looking at is convention center area. Now every time I go through there, that's where a lot of our visitors go. Did I see a lot of debris, a lot of rocks, dirt, and the curbs? Do we have enough street sweepers? Can we use another one, to keep on? Well, that was one thing, and then the other thing that now I see everywhere is grass on the curbs, grass on the asphalt. And I think I talked to Roy about, what's that thing called? That's great. Herbicide. As a matter of fact, I sent you a picture, and they went and sprayed, and it's dead. Now we have dead grass on the curb. So it's, McAllen is a nice, beautiful place, but I think it can be better. If we can just have somebody constantly.
For that specific task.
For herbicide,
herbicide.
we only have one truck, one employee.
Well, what we used to. I mean,
Most definitely.
we have, if you drive around, especially in the neighborhoods that are a little inside, I'll give you an example. Behind my office, if you go to those streets, and I just took pictures right now, it's like, there's some areas that are just full of grass in the asphalt. And what's gonna happen? It's gonna break up the asphalt. It's gonna cost more. And it looks ugly. So if we can start working on, I don't know how much those things cost, but if right now, fortunately, we're blessed that hopefully we can afford one of those thingies. And if we need another street sweeper, and hell, if we need another employee to keep on doing that, I think we can make our area, our city look even much better. One thing, I was talking to Commissioner here about the roll-offs. Can we get more, because especially in the south, a lot of times you see more mess in the south, you really do. And maybe it's because we can utilize some more of those over there. I know they're requested in the north, because I got a call, hey, it's gonna take so many weeks before we can get one. And I don't think they're requested in the north as much as they are in the south.
They're talking about the yellow ones, though.
So I don't know how that works or who.
Well, that's keeping count.
Okay, well then.
They can't be requested, but there is a program.
Well, we need to figure that out, or how we can assist Keep McAllen Beautiful or whatever. Because if people utilize them and they're requested, well, that's gonna help us. That's gonna help us do what we gotta do. But we have to, and to me, everybody should go visit Tampico. They fixed that city, I think, within how many years? A few years? You remember?
2018.
When they started that Tampico Villa?
2018.
2018, and I mean, they can tell you, you didn't see papers, you didn't see anything. Even the market, it was all clean, but I think it was a change in culture, in the way people think. And that's why I'm saying, getting the kids involved, so talking to the school districts, getting the help of the commissioners, myself going to schools, talking to the kids, deputizing them to be part of it, which they go to their parents, then doing videos, doing all this stuff about even putting your carts where they belong in HEB, getting all that. We've never done it. And I think if we do, we can change the culture.
So it's gonna take an action plan and a.
Well,
a
that's
large
what I'm
education
talking
campaign.
about.
So if you give us an opportunity, now that I heard you, mention all the details at the Keep McAllen Beautiful meeting on Wednesday, we're certainly gonna create an action plan that will require collaboration from many departments.
And other
civic
entities like the school.
organizations as well. Yes, absolutely. We already have an in with the school district, so I think we can start there. I agree with you. But we need to create an action plan within the city so that we can have a charge and a hack. This is how we're gonna do this. And obviously it's not gonna happen overnight, but one step at a time we can
One
get
step
there.
at a time.
We start with the kindergarten kids
And everything, it's amazing. I mean, I keep on saying Tampico, it is amazing what they did. It's amazing. Within a
What
few
kind of
years.
equipment do you need for the herbicide person?
It's a truck that has an herbicide mechanism. It's about $150,000, and then we obviously need an operator that has certification to
But then after that, it has to be clean.
Yes.
You're only killing them there.
Yeah.
Well, then you need
Yes.
Yeah.
We need a major campaign because a lot of that is the residents' responsibility.
Which is also part of what I'm talking about, doing videos, putting out there that you yourself can go out and clean your curb. You yourself can, I mean, they have to buy in. And once
Right.
some people start doing it, everybody has to do it, otherwise they get chained. They'll be, it's a changing culture.
But many people don't know that that's their responsibility,
Well,
expecting the city
well,
to
there
do
you
it.
go.
Or that campaign and action plan will include that, and with the help of code enforcement, we can educate
Well, I mean,
the
you've got
community.
HOAs all over the place, and that could be an education that's part of it. I don't see if it becomes a culture within years, okay, this is not overnight, okay?
Does some people have a consequence or no?
I don't know.
A consequence.
I'm not sure.
What the hell is that?
Well, si no
A
limpias tu
penalty,
lugar,
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
consecuencias.
No, they don't have that, because he was mentioning it. I don't want.
And the other thing is also cutting grass and blowing everything to the gutter.
To the gutters,
I know.
I think we need
We
to,
have that.
That also affects the drain, that affects, and that should have a consequence.
that should
That
be fine.
affects us.
That should definitely have a
Warning is
consequence.
not fine.
Do we have an ordinance against that now or no?
Yes.
Yes.
We've had it about 2 or 3 years now. The issue is enforcement.
I see them do it every day.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not even enforcement, it's just people complaining. I do it.
You was.
No, I
You blow the grass
So I literally will stop, take a picture, and put it on 311 and report it. Oh, goodness.
He's convinced that.
I know his address.
That's political death.
He probably changes his own
Oh,
oil
yeah,
and puts it in the gutter.
Do I do that or
No,
not?
honey.
I don't even cut my own grass.
But I would really like to see that, and I know it costs money, but if we invest, I think we can see a change.
Well, Mayor, let me ask you this. What are the things that you see that are the top 3 unsightly, unwanting, debris things that you see out there?
But now,
Yeah, right now. I mean, what you're talking about.
if you go to the south, we need more code enforcement. I
No,
see
no,
some
no. What
laws,
is the things that are you seeing that are unsightly?
the grass,
Okay?
and not only unsightly, it breaks the curb and ultimately costly.
Okay, what about debris, tires,
I don't see
trash?
that too much.
Okay, so it's really
I
mostly
do see it
grass.
over there.
So it's more grass.
Keeping the streets clean, which that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The herbicide,
I'm
they
just trying to
need-
hone it down.
and a sweeper, I think that would really, really help. But I don't know, would that be sufficient?
It requires a community to
Well,
buy
yeah,
in.
but that's all of us together now, doing that type of
Let's
thing.
do a video.
You can do a video.
I'll be on a weed eater, you'll be on a riding lawnmower, you know. I'll be serious.
Yeah, we can do it.
Put our money in our mouth.
Replace all these sanitizer bottles with little bottles of Roundup and just have everyone squirting around town. It'll work. Sidewalks.
Sebi, that's what I'm talking.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
Okay, I get it.
But that's
So when they do the cuttings, they're leaving it in the curb, and then it needs to be picked up.
Yeah, that's
But
the-
that's a reporting
that's
issue.
Pero
call it a
people.
contractor, right?
That's people, but like this other stuff, all the grass in that curb, and we're talking about almost 8
Yeah.
inches of grass there, that's gonna destroy it.
Yeah. It's gonna
That's
plug up all the
behind my
drains.
office. And that,
And again, that's an education thing too.
that's in the side of my office.
Definitely.
Well, not in my office, but behind.
Definitely put me part of the education campaign.
So I don't know what part that was, but that's what I'm thinking. Because I can't read it, it's too small.
It's just,
I'm sorry.
No, but it's well, because you're talking about putting the example there, you know, cleaning the streets and then educating, you know, our generations and our citizens about it. So it's got to be example with action.
I'll reach out to some people to find out whether they have a consequence.
Well, yeah, but do we have necessary, Roy, do we have necessary funds to do that?
In sanitation, yes.
I say we try to change the culture.
Okay,
You want the budget?
yeah. We're working on
Let us
it.
work on the video.
We'll bring you in now that you're so enthusiastic.
I guess do the beginning leadership for this. I want to do something in condition.
Right. That's one portion of Public Works. Public Works oversees 4 funds: sanitation fund, sanitation depreciation, internal services fund, and general fund. So the next step here is part of the general fund, which will be street maintenance. Street maintenance. Good. Sidewalk construction. Good. Drainage, we're good.
How often are we mowing the ditches again? Once a year? You have a calendar and it
Yes.
rotates, right? Once a year, right?
Yes. We maintain 30.
What part do we have the alleys?
The alleys under street maintenance.
Street maintenance?
Yes.
So that's the repaving, but
Yes.
but that wasn't recommended by the city manager, at least the increase,
The increase of $250,000.
to maintain the same amount of paving we were doing this last year.
That's correct. That is for the pavement recycling. $250,000 only gives us a half a mile of repaving.
That's the program we have throughout.
Yes.
Well, you think that's enough for?
Well,
No, this-
I took it out because it's in the general fund. I mean, if the commission feels that we need to do more repaving, we should take it from another fund.
Elvira brought a workshop item about 1.5 years, 2 years ago on that, didn't you? Where you
Yes.
wanted to
Yeah, well, we got
allocate.
the alligator and this.
We did, we had broken it up, it was like 2.5 million a year or something.
Right. I mean, is that part of,
2.2, that's part
that,
of
was that
general fund?
workshop discussion
So
part of
we've
the
got that
budget?
program
Yes.
going,
Yeah,
specifically for alleys.
yeah, that one's an alley
No,
program.
Specifically for alleys. And so, for street maintenance, what we've done in the past is that we'll take it from either the CIP or the Development Corporation.
Oh, that's right.
And add it to the 3.4 million, which, you know.
Okay. So you have a couple of pots to
You
go.
guys get calls
Okay.
from the citizens about streets and so on. So you've got a pretty good pulse of whether we should increase that or not.
I think we should.
We should increase.
And
Do that.
But you do have a schedule that's kind of a probably 12, 15-month outlook of already planned
Yes.
streets, right?
Yes.
Can we get that again to get an update on it?
Yeah, it comes out of the
It's
engineering
actually
department.
engineering is the one.
Engineering has it,
Yes,
yeah.
engineering factors that in, they just use this account. We do the maintenance
You
side.
do the maintenance, yeah.
Was there this is before I got here, so, was there a 10-year plan for it to be done, 5 years, 20 years? What
Yeah,
was it?
engineering has those plans laid out. We have the plans for the alleys laid out, and we have them in groups. So when y'all call and say, hey, can you do this alley? I'll tell you, well, it's in group this, we've got it earmarked for this
Yeah.
group this year.
Well, can you, I need to record it, I don't have.
Because generally, obviously in District 5, I get a lot of alley complaints,
Was that
right?
an
Because
Yeah.
your alley is always, to you, the worst one, because it's the only one you use. But it is true that there are alleys of different need, and, you know, some are definitely significantly worse than others. And I think that's how they were prioritized.
Right, so together with engineering, we hired a consultant to come in and do a pavement condition. What? Assessment, there you go. And we were able, that helped us tremendously to be able to identify them and group them and rate them in levels of priority, deterioration by. That's how we
Well-
identify them and are able to move forward with knowing what is next.
Well, new subdivisions, it's a rarity to have
You just put it in the
alleys,
alleys and just
okay,
expire.
public alleys. Private alleys possibly, but then that becomes private, okay? So we're not gonna see that grow into the future. So it's your inner city, inner city that had the alleys or had no alleys, but just caliche alleys or whatever. So that's what we're addressing, and that's why I'm sure that whatever we're doing is gonna have an end because you're addressing where the needs are. I mean, the future, you're not gonna have, that problem. In future new subdivisions, there's not many alleys out there. And the ones that have alleys are normally private.
The life of an alley after you regrade it, repurpose
Right.
it, replace it, is about 8 years.
How many years?
8, 8 to
8.
10 years. Because of the wear and tear, we still go through the alleys for service.
Oh, that's right, the truck.
I got a question. The alleys, like, they have a big, light poles with the huge one. Do we do the cleaning there, or does
Yeah, right.
how many, or they're copying, because I see them, what, 3 times they cleaned it already. Al que está aquí en la Olga, we go east to west. And I just saw hace poco they cleaned it and now they're cleaning it again. So they maybe that's what I thought, que it was maybe the light company or something that they put new gravel, o sea, calicho.
Yes.
I think there was some CDBG funding, and there was some, what do you call it, water line and sewer lines that were redone, and it might have gone, it might have been repaid there, because there was some CDB funding for upgrading the water and sewer lines. Yeah.
Well, so before we move on, bicentennial 29. If we can check where it is as far as the repaving or the fixing up or something, because I don't want to show off, but I did run the 5K, the Crime Stoppers, and you go on 29th Street, and there's some areas that it seems that the street is like semi-collapsing, like big cracks on 29th.
What's the block number?
Oh, south or north of the expressway?
No, from where we ran from the convention center up to around 83 and
Okay.
and back. And I mean, it's like, you can see, seems like it's kind of caving in. When we get a little rain, it's gonna really mess it up.
Okay.
I need to start just jogging all over the place.
Okay, we'll get specifics. Okay, tell me what's happening with 10th Street after the rains. Yeah, believe it or not, we did have rain early in the year, okay? And it just destroyed 10th Street, on both the west and on the east side, okay? And there was some patchwork, and what I had gotten from city staff was that TxDOT, because it's a TxDOT road, was gonna come back and do something, and it's still not drivable.
Do you know what the status of that is, Eduardo?
I'll look into the status. Commissioner, it is correct. They had told us they were gonna come and put some type of patch. I'll follow up on that.
How about overlay or cutler? Is there any plan for that?
On 10th Street, we don't do state.
No,
roads.
the state.
That's what I'll look into and I'll get a report back.
Okay.
It has been 6 months now,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And it is not, that is used tremendously conducive.
So for wrap up, we'll bring a budget item to increase the repaving from another fund. Okay?
Just real quick, that is gonna include that 4% on the alley pavement conditions? Okay. Page 51, it says increase alley pavement condition index by 4%.
Oh, that's a goal. That's our goal.
Okay.
Look at it.
Drainage.
Drainage?
Drainage, we're good. Graffiti, we're good.
We don't see much graffiti, do we?
We eliminated within 24 hours.
Because.
No, but do we even have too many people doing stuff?
3. We have 3 trucks.
No. People doing graffiti. People doing graffiti.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, 'cause I don't
Well, no,
I don't see it.
hold on. If you take care of it quickly, which we are, and we've done for years now, you eliminate graffiti. If you take care of it quickly, because those that are doing it saying, I'm not getting my kicks out of it, right? So that's what's happening in the city. And I know conscientiously, we started that, more than 5 years ago, 10 years ago or more. And it has worked, so keep that crew.
Thank you.
Do not lose it thinking that you
We can
conquered
do
it.
that, yeah.
So
It
if
will
you can
come back.
change the people doing graffiti, you can change the other people from doing well, cleaning and everything. It's a change in culture.
Me, I agree. All right, that's it for general funds. We've got the internal services fund is the next tab. That includes fleet operations and materials management. This is basically a fund that sustains various departments for a fee. This is a good fund. It's got $201,000 in the reserve fund. And basically it's an in and out. And we received everything we requested. Come in. So, as little as possible. Yeah. We're good.
Yes.
All right, before we move on, thank you very much for everything that you do, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rita.
All right, who's next?
We're going to executive session.
Yeah, so we want to take a break. Can we take a little quick break? Go into executive rather quickly and then bring them back? Can we do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for having us here. I'm just going to be real general. I'm going to stick to the fund balance summary, the sheet that you have in your packet. It kind of shows you a overall look at the situation at the golf course. As you can tell, want to point out to the estimated column, and we're doing very, very well this year. A lot of the things that started in COVID have continued. We were not sure if they were going to continue, but they have, and one of those is the amount of rounds that we're getting out here. That combined with some of the neighboring courses that shut down, Cimarron specifically, and that has also helped us out. So from a financial side, we're doing very, very well. And this year, we were scheduled to finish 456,000 in the red. The majority of that, the bulk of that, 326,000, I believe, was all to pay for the golf carts that we purchased and some other capital projects that we had ongoing here at the course. As you can tell, we're not only going to pay for that, but we're also going to end up 57,000 in the black. So overall, a remarkable year. We don't expect things to slow down. I think that I thank the commission and management for the decision we made to put that moratorium on memberships. That's working out very well for us as well. It's allowing us to continue to operate and do some of the maintenance work out there. So overall, doing very, very well. We're going to probably close the year with approximately 60,000 rounds. I would have never thought 4 years ago that was going to be the case. And so all in all, the outlook of the golf course and for the golf course is really, really positive. In terms of what we're requesting for next year, our budget's been pretty stable. We are having to make some adjustments to accommodate for the increase in play that we have. And so a perfect example of that is we're going to now have to probably spend a little bit more money than we used to in chemicals and fertilizers to try and speed up the recovery process. The driving range has taken off like not even in my dreams would I have guessed that it was going to be doing this well. And so we had to add a position just because nowadays we're having to constantly pick up range balls from 4 o'clock on just to be able to keep up with demand. But all in all, a couple of positions that we have added and a few dollars on the maintenance side. The rest is COLA benefits and things like that. If you are wondering why under the department request for the golf shop versus what the city manager recommended, why that $74,000 difference there, it was a position we added during the fiscal year, and we were not sure if it was going to get in there on time, so it was actually double booked, that and also benefits. But pretty much everything that we needed is in there, and we look forward to another great 23-24. Again, the challenges that we got coming up are 2, 3, 4 years coming, and that's going to be infrastructure stuff, but we continue to work on those a little bit at a time, and very happy with everything that we got going on.
Carlos, did we ever mention, I don't know if we did mention about, but you wanted to do some remodeling, or una vez no comentaste?
Well, there's a lot of things that are being considered, but the majority of, in my opinion, the majority of our efforts need to be on the golf course, yes, sir.
On the trail.
The car paths is one of those, we'll
That's the
probably.
one I noticed, there's parts are in very bad condition, guys.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the cities, this is a little city, the golf course. We're the citizens. And what they drive is on those trails.
Yeah.
And those pads, I saw some that were like bad. We need to.
So what did you put in the budget for that?
We are working with Public Works. They're gonna hopefully help us a little bit, but we requested, and we'll discuss that tomorrow, 300,000 for as a capital project.
But it's not in the budget.
Not in this one.
No, it's a capital project.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in another budget.
It'll be for
Not in
tomorrow.
the golf course budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have money for it.
Okay.
And what he's talking about
let's go
is,
back.
I've actually been the one holding Elvira back.
Este,
Public Works does a lot of
golf
those
tournament
car
here?
paths.
Yeah, me fui a
We
dar la
save a
vuelta.
bunch of money.
Este,
But we have to be able to schedule it when her workload is down. And we think we'll be able to do some of that work before the end of this fiscal year. We're very grateful that Public Works can do that. And then on top of that, he's got some capital money for next year.
Roy, hire some millennials to the job and go straight after the
In a day.
But it is really, what is happening here on, even at this time of the year, and for those of you that play golf on aerified greens, to get 200 rounds out here on weekends, it's like we used to do 80 4 years ago. So it's just amazing what's happening.
Carlos, on the revenue side, your annual membership, I know you said you had a moratorium. Why is your request smaller than last year? Did you put a moratorium on the membership?
Well, a lot of it has to do with how finance does the bookkeeping on the memberships.
Okay.
And so we're actually, if you look at money received at the point of sale, this year versus last, we're actually ahead.
Oh.
But they defer the revenue because when you collect $1,300 from a member, it's a liability for the next
Oh, I see, for
364
the
days.
next-
Yeah, so
Got
it's
it.
just the accounting,
Okay.
but it's doing very well.
The driving range, bro.
The driving range is
The
great.
driving range is doing more money, I guess,
Wow.
than
And the membership.
less maintenance too. Just saying.
Is that revenue from the driving range also partial from UTRGV?
No, sir,
No.
that's strictly driving range business.
Oh, I see.
All driving range sells golf balls.
Is there a line here where is a revenue stream from UTRGV?
The UTRGV, we do not make any money The building that they're doing, I think we charge $1 a year, Roy, is that
Oh,
what
I
it's gonna
see.
be? One of those deals,
Quid
yeah.
pro quo.
So more than anything, it's just gonna enhance the image, the fact that they picked McAllen instead of any
Okay.
other city.
So we're not charging them, right?
No, sir.
Okay, but they built a facility
Right.
improvement that we're
All
gonna
the
keep.
capital is on them.
Okay,
Right.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it? All right. Convention
Convention.
center.
I'll try.
$210,000.
And the sale of
The
property.
sale of property.
That little space where we put that.
When is that?
The sale of property.
Oh, that was last year. This current year, 210.
What was the sale of property? The $210,000.
That was the golf carts.
Oh.
That's a reimbursement back?
Yes, the trading value, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
never
that
did
type
that.
of property.
But it never did.
Yeah.
Good.
The way the accounting is done.
I got it. No problem.
The convention center department consists of 3 separate funds, the McAllen Convention Center and a depreciation account, the McAllen Performing Arts Center and the depreciation account, and Quinta Mazatlan. The first 2 that we will be going over are enterprise accounts, and then the last one is part of our general fund. Just to give you some high-level highlights on the convention center, we had budgeted to be at a break-even for the year, and we're trending at $1.3 million revenues over expenses. These last 2 years for the convention center have been record-breaking years, and we have seen this trend over the last 5 years where the convention center is actually in the black when most of the convention centers in the U.S. are in the red. So the convention center team is doing an outstanding job in terms of being able to bring in revenue. And we're also looking at ways to reduce our expenses. The other thing that comprises convention center and performing arts center is ticket sales. And what we have noticed is that 39% of our ticket sales are from outside Hidalgo County. So what that means to us is that we're bringing outside money in, and it's a huge economic driver for the area because those people are staying in our hotels, eating at our restaurants, and shopping at our retail locations. It is estimated that the economic impact of the convention center brings in between $65 and $70 million a year. So that being said, we handed out a packet that is not part of the budget that's in your workbook. And the reason that this is coming in a little bit late is because after McAllen last week, our staff analyzed the needs of our staff. When you have a big event like McAllen, it really highlights your strengths, but it also highlights your weaknesses. And we realized that we were stretching staff too thin. We have a huge complex. We run 2 buildings and an outside facility, and we can't be in multiple places at once. And so we are requesting 3 positions that are not part of this current workbook. The first position is an audiovisual supervisor. We saw a huge need in that department. The second position is an audio engineer. We saw a huge void during McAllen because we had so many events happening at once. We realized that our staff is in need of a true audio engineer, specifically with the McAllen Performing Arts Center being the jewel that it is in terms of acoustics. We need to have somebody that has those credentials. We have technicians that are jack of all trades, but not somebody that's really focused on audio. And we are also requesting a lead supervisor. Any questions with that?
This is in addition to
This is
what
in
you have here.
That is correct. Yes.
And that total is how much?
It's $166,000 for the 3 positions, and we're also proposing 2 reclasses for $18,000. The total is $185,000. And keeping in mind this 185,000 that we're requesting is only 13.5% of our revenues over expenses. So we're able to cover that because of the revenues that are coming into the convention center. Other than that, regarding convention center, I think that everything that was requested was funded.
Yeah, I'll just point out the one thing that's not on there is the pedestrian crossing that we talked about, going under Ware Road. We still want to do it, but we think that there's an opportunity for us to get that funded through TxDOT, so we took it out of the convention center budget.
What will it really gain?
That crossing? Yeah, well, I mean, we believe that Ware Road on the west side is gonna continue to develop, and it's a very, very busy street, obviously. And so between the development that's occurring on the west side and all of the activities that the convention center has, we need to be able to cross that road, and to have to go through traffic just is too dangerous.
Well, one of the issues that Joe had raised was the location. Right? I still assume, where's it work? It's still gonna be one because of, one, you have the ditch, two, I think there's something with the intersection itself that you couldn't do it right at the intersection. I can't remember what it was, maybe utility.
Yeah.
Drainage pipe, that's right.
Drainage, yeah.
So it had to be north of there, so that sounds like that's still some years away before it gets.
Yeah, I mean, the exact location is still to be determined, but we believe is necessary. We had a couple of, I don't know, there was a couple, but some 5Ks that we actually crossed Ware Road. It was a little bit of work for the two departments, convention center and parks, to make that work, stop traffic and so on. So if we really want to take advantage of having West Side Park over there, we need a way to get there.
The next fund is the Convention Center Depreciation Fund. The Convention Center is hitting 17 years, and so it's aging. We're looking at one major replacement, which is the cooling tower and the cooling tower piping, which circulates the water within the Convention Center and HVAC units. The total cost is approximately $650,000. And we also have a request for furniture for $75,000 to replace some of the outdated furniture that we have. We project that because of the building being 17 years old, we are going to dip into this depreciation fund within the next few years.
So right now we have beginning working depreciation of 2.6 million.
That's correct. And we transfer in $250,000 every year into that account. The next thing that we're looking at, of course, our HVAC, our roof, and our carpets are things that we will see probably within the next 5 years that will need to be replaced or repaired. The next fund is the...
Excuse me,
Yes.
we may be looking at adding more to depreciation than 250 a year.
I think that the $250,000 a year has been good to date. I just think that we are hitting that 20-year mark, and that 20-year mark is a...
New building, so you didn't use it as much.
And with the cost of everything going up.
Yeah. Normally, whatever you did, you would depreciate the front. I'm used to the PUP side, is a percentage of the depreciation of the expenditure for so many years, and it's not a 250.
One of the things...
You know, because eventually, whatever you did, and you gave it a 20-year life period, that you would at least have it cover that. But this way, I'm just saying, 2.6 million seems like a lot, but it's not a lot in a building.
It can go fast. One of the things that I've heard from other departments is that there's a depreciation on the use of certain elements. So the use of, let's say, an LED wall, what would the depreciation be per year or per use? And that's something that we can take into consideration in addition to the standard $250,000 plug that we have. Because a lot of these items that we rent out or we lend out have a specific use. The next budget that we have is the McAllen Performing Arts Center. The McAllen Performing Arts Center was scheduled to be at a $500,000 loss for the year, and on this sheet we have it'll be at a $95,000 loss, but I'm confident that we'll be able to break even at the Performing Arts Center. Again, it's been a record-breaking year. We've had record-breaking rentals and ticket sales for the McAllen Performing Arts Center, and we've seen this post-COVID now. We thought that we had hit an anomaly, but we've been able to sustain that. One of the major changes to, or major requests to the McAllen Performing Arts Center Fund is to, the facility takes up about 40% of the salaries and benefits of convention center. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to equate for that. And so what we're seeing is, or what we're requesting is an additional $500,000 from McAllen Performing Arts Center to pay a management fee to convention center. The convention center pays 100% of the salaries and benefits for both departments.
And you've got to take advantage of the fact that the Performing Arts Center has a revenue that the convention center does not. That's the venue tax. And so, I mean, that's not the reason to do it, but you have to take advantage of it. The HIDA actually went through an analysis that shows that about $1.4 million, also minimums, of salaries, compensation, and benefits are actually attributed to the Performing Arts Center. So that's a good figure to use. Addition, so the total is 1.5 million. So it's an additional $500,000, 1.1 million to 1.5.
Other than that, everything that we requested on the McAllen Performing Arts Center was funded, and we're very grateful for that. The building is in good shape, and there's just a few items that have a 5-year lifespan that we're replacing. And then the McAllen Performing Arts Center Depreciation Fund also has a $250,000 plug-in that we put every year, and we're not requesting any items to be purchased.
And the discussion of the new building for storage and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's in there.
And the budget seems good for that.
Yeah, that's in the,
That's in the convention center.
Yeah, it's in the convention center,
yeah, it's on page 96. It's $2,280,000 is the budget.
We do about good. Y'all were impressed. We're at,
Awesome.
there's no word. This community has benefited so much. Just, all the families over there. It's an experience. And for those of you all that will see it later, there's plenty to do in McAllen. You just need to find out where everything is. And sometimes there's functions at the same time for different reasons and whatever. And both of them are excellent. One, the Performing Arts, the Convention Center, this side of it is just doing well. And it is good for the other community. Benefit and see it, because eventually they want to come and live in this beautiful city. And as you see, 35% of the revenues of the ticket sales come from outside. Okay, which is all it's all good for us, and it keeps our community vibrant. And we're actually where do you hear that a convention center is not a white elephant in this country? And that is a term that's used and has been used for everything, because it just doesn't make money. A convention center for a community does not make money. I mean, it's a vital, you know, we have to get money. And for instance, now, after 15 to 19 years, be actually, you know, revenue producing, and now our performing arts, which is what, 7 years old, what is that, performing arts?
2016.
16, so 7 years old, yeah. You know, for it to get this close for it to be, not a white elephant also, it's incredible. Incredible.
Well, it has to do with all these people.
Well, I know, that's why, and all of them, because I mean, the airport was, you know, had people there, the staff and whatever, and put parts of recreation, say the least, and then everything else, I mean, public work, everybody was working so hard, staff, city hall.
One of the things that
And this is one of the events, and many other events also.
I think that's one of the things that makes our community so special. For us, McAllen was a huge event that needed a lot of resources, and I think that most of our city departments helped as much as they possibly could to make sure that this event was successful, from ensuring that we had cashiers to ensuring that we had our street sweep to machinery. I think that everybody came together to make sure that we were able to showcase our city. And it really showcased not just the strength of the convention center, but as the community as a whole and the city coming together, which is why this particular department has been successful these last 5 years.
Yeah, but, you know, you do this for the Christmas, the whole, and this is not the parade, this is, you know, 2 months of activity from Thanksgiving, you know, right before Thanksgiving all the way to January. And there's just so much to do. And then you have the 4th of July and everything, but you have to put it on and everybody loves it and stuff. And then we have, you know, just ongoing events through the year. I know I'm gonna speak, but all of our commission, I mean, we were just in awe and saying that we all are very, very thankful. My words are only that everyone here wants to express.
Commissioner Tony, I want to ask you, you mentioned the white elephant. What about the gray elephant? I want to hear about the gray elephant. Oh, come on, bro, you gotta laugh at that. That was funny.
Commissioner, I appreciate your words, and I'll be sure to let staff know. I think that that staff is very proud of the work that they did, and not just for McAllen, but for every event day in and day out. And it's really important for us to have leadership see what we do day in and day out. So I'm sure that they'll appreciate those comments. It's a lot of work.
Although we can't figure out the payroll.
Not on my end.
Yeah, the performing arts and what it's done to this whole community, the whole, you know, the high school performing and doing all the performances and then everything else. It's taking it to another level. And it's, yeah, inspiring to them for it to grow.
15 seconds. The one performance, one event that just blew me out of the water. The Palms Awards. Just blew me out of the water. Outstanding.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, because the Palms was incredible, but all those kids, I mean, and before, you know, that was not in existence now. The ones that are coming up, they're seeing what the Palms Award and what they could do and how they could, you know, excel in that. It's fantastic.
We got into the Palms and to events like that to future-proof the building, to be able to create the next generation of theater goers and season ticket goers. But what I've seen out of it is that it's regional. We have 3 counties that are involved in 26 high schools, and so it's bringing the community together and the community of the arts together, and that's also the reason why we've created the nonprofit arm of the Performing Arts Center so that we have a nonprofit that can fund this. At the end of the day, even though these events are great, they cost money, the brick and mortar and the expenses of every event are the same, no matter if it's an altruistic or educational event or a for-profit concert. And we want this foundation to be able to support that so that the building gets paid for payroll and expenses and everything that the building needs to be able to survive. So we think that the nonprofit will really help grow that element, but also help the building continue to do things like the Palms.
That it?
And the last budget that we have is Quinta Mazatlan. We're really excited to break ground this next fiscal year with the Center for Urban Ecology. Quinta continues to grow and the programming continues to grow at Quinta. We're very grateful for the approved items in the budget, and we have a total of $129,000 in approved recommendations. Quinta Mazatlan is part of our general fund. Any questions on
On
Quinta?
the improvements, that got moved to development court, we're getting that from that.
There was $228,000 of building improvements that got
Right.
moved to development core, and that has to do with the Adobe brick.
Got it. Thank you.
Roy, on the Adobe brick, why don't we just use hardy board? We could do that. Okay, just saying.
Thank you.
Gracias.
That was funny, Roy.
That was
Okay.
Throw
me a ball.
What was gray elephant?
Because he kept referring to white elephant, so I came up with a color. So, we're trying to make it funny. Blue elephant. Yes, sir.
Burnt orange.
Burnt orange.
Okay, Liz.
Okay, it's airport's turn. We're really excited to be talking about our three funds today. The first fund we'll talk about is our operating fund, and you'll notice that working capital sheet that's in front of you. It talks a little bit about all of the effort that we've worked very closely with the city manager on. We're really proud of the work we've done over the last 10 years. We really got to the airport. There was a lot of outdated leases. They didn't speak to industry standards. And so we were able to really dive deep into what some of those industry standards were, what were some important trends that we needed to see reflected in our leases, and it's really worked. Over the last 10 years, we have increased aeronautical and non-aeronautical revenue by over 42%, about $2.3 million that we did not count on. So that's a huge victory. I think that's what you'll see is reflected in this working capital worksheet. You'll see that we started this fiscal year with about a $17 million fund balance. You will remember that we've also acquired about $12.6 million in COVID relief funds that has helped us to grow that fund balance. We were able to use those relief funds towards operating expenses. And then we've gotten very assertive with how we're using local match dollars out of this fund. You'll see on average every year, we're pulling about $1 million out of this fund to support 90% of federally funded dollars. So for every million that you see reflected coming out of this to go to Fund 4554 or to our CIP fund, that's about a $9 million federal grant. That's a big deal for us. In the last 10 years, we've secured about $66 million in federal funding. Of that $66 million, about 45% has been in discretionary funding, and that's all the work that we do in DC. We're very grateful for our delegation that supports that funding, and we've got a stellar record for completing those projects. So that's what is reflected here. I'm really proud to talk a little bit about how this last 2 years we've worked really closely with all our aeronautical partners. For this year, when you look at the estimated revenue column, fiscal year 22-23, we're estimating about a 13% increase in our operating revenues, and that's primarily reflective of a 28% increase in aeronautical revenue. That comes from our extensive work, working alongside our airline partners, our general aviation partners, to really have them assume more of the risk to operate at the airport. And we're really proud of that work. It's going to be a substantial amount. It'll be a 28% increase in aeronautical revenue this year, and another 35% increase next year, what we're going to see. We kind of phased in that contract over 2 years, and that increase is going to be substantial and important to the airport and what we're able to do in terms of capital growth for the future years. When we look at overall ending working capital balance for this year, after we look at all our estimated costs, we're looking at ending the year with a little over 18 million. We start next year with that, and we look at those revenues on the operating side go up another 11%, almost by $1 million. Again, that's resulting greatly from that increase in aeronautical revenue. We're really grateful for the legal team as well, because they support all of these efforts. These contracts take a while to even negotiate and execute. They're not easy a lot of the times, and it can be difficult, but it's been a great task for the airport to be able to achieve these successes. At the end of this year, we end with about 10.6 million, and that will continue to enable our focus on capital growth. This is what's primarily captured in this fund, and I think this is what the bigger projects that we talk about for capital are going to be in Fund 554. We've got small capital projects under 50,000 that we capture here, some small upgrades. If you guys want to go through those in more detail, I can. If not, I can skip to the next fund. Our next fund then is Fund 552, which is our passenger facility fund. And I will remind you that we collect approximately $4.50 per ticketed passenger, and that funding for us, it's about a $2 million collection a year. We have a really healthy fund balance in that fund as well. You will remember that that fund is used to make the debt service payment for ongoing debt related to the construction project that we completed.
PFC funds only go strictly to the terminal, right?
It goes to debt service and to any airport improvement project that is allotted or that meets the criteria.
Oh.
And so it's basically any work to airfield side,
Okay.
and then within the terminal to areas that don't that are non-lease areas.
Non-what?
Non-lease areas.
Oh, non-lease.
So anything like the parking facility, the rental car areas, we cannot use PFC for that. We tend to really use PFC for those airside projects
stuff.
and ARF projects, which are the bigger ticketed items. At the end of this year, and so what we've done here is we've put together some recommendations for projects. These are projects that meet the criteria for next year for PFC funds, and so this allows us to utilize the funding, and we end the year with a total fund balance of about 7.4 million this year and 2.3 million next year. I don't know if you have any questions on that.
What is the bridges?
Excuse me?
Terminal passenger bridges.
So we are able to utilize PFC dollars also to offset some of our local match costs. And so those are the bridges that connect the airplane to the terminal facility. We have a total of 5 bridges, and they have all met their useful life. And so we are recommending that we replace Jet Bridge 2 and Jet Bridge 4. And so we've allocated some funding for that. You'll see that funding allocated.
3.1 million.
Yes, and so you'll see that is allocating all the jet bridges that we need to fully, but then we've been able to capture some federal dollars, and so we're hoping that together that'll stretch our money.
But
So
5
you'll
and 6 were just installed 4 years ago?
5 and 6 were just installed, and so I'm talking about the older ones,
The older ones.
1 through 4, correct. So as we move to the next fund, which is Fund 554, what we try to do here, because we get really assertive with our requests for federal dollars, we don't know what's going to come in. We put everything that is on our master plan program into this budget profile. or budget plan, and then as funding becomes available, we're able to quickly utilize that funding. And so the projects that we're focused on right now is completing the runway safety area projects, the $27 million project. We're looking at completion of phase 3 and 4. We're about 45% complete. That project we're hoping to complete by March of next year. For the upcoming year, we're looking at 2 new projects that are funded. We've got the expansion study for the terminal facility, for the terminal area. It's about a $500,000 cost, and we're looking at a 14-month lead time to complete that study. That's an important study. It'll help to gauge what the need is, what the forecasted demand is for expanding the terminal, but then it also gives us all of the parameters that we need to be in place to be able to reach out to FAA for funding of these types of projects. In addition to that, we've worked really closely with Congresswoman De La Cruz. She was able to secure $2.8 million in discretion, or $2.1 million in discretionary dollars, and we've been able to secure that funding for HVAC improvements and for lighting improvements. It's a constant battle with the terminal aging to be able to maintain all of our equipment. So we're really happy to be able to secure that. You'll see this as an agenda item on your next agenda meeting packet. And so those are the 3 primary projects that we're working on for next year. I don't know if you have any questions on or want more detail on any of these projects.
On the airport capital improvement side,
Yes,
there's 2 items. The cargo ramp construction,
yes.
that's already initiated, or is it still in the
No,
plan?
we're pending funding on
Oh,
that,
the funding,
and it's, FAA does not rate that as a high priority item, but we want to keep it there in case
Oh,
we
this
get the
is your
funding.
entire list of things. And then the GA land acquisition.
Again, the same thing. So we're already actually working on a feasibility study for that land acquisition, and we're working closely with the city manager's office on that. We've initiated the study that talks about the demand for it,
Right.
and working through the environmental process to be able to do that.
Without getting into a lot of detail, this is the area on the southeast corner of the property?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Liz.
Yes.
So next is transit. Good evening, Mayor Commissioner. So we transit manage three funds. It's the Metro McAllen Fund, the Bus Terminal Fund, and Downtown Services. Metro McAllen Fund is all the operating costs for the transit system and the bus terminal. And so we'll start with that one. Basically, we do have a healthy fund balance, and we didn't have any major requests. I think it was 88,000 is what we requested, some minor things. The biggest bulk of that was additional, about $50,000 for additional security guards and $30,000 for training. That goes into to train all the transit operators that we're going to hire for our service expansion. So in a nutshell, that was our request, and it was approved. And I'll entertain any questions on this fund.
Have we replaced the entire fleet?
So we've replaced a large portion of it that
Right.
came into out of its useful life. We'll talk about when we talk about bus terminal, which is the next fund. We
Oh, I
have
see.
some additional bus replacements coming this year. So the next fund is the bus terminal fund, and that's where we have all of our preventive maintenance, which is at 80-20 match from the FTA, and then any capital improvements. There was minor adjustments to our operating, which is preventive maintenance, just basically to account for some added costs for preventative maintenance. And then we have about $16.8 million worth of capital projects. The majority of them were rollovers. You know, we have our North Hub that's under construction, should be coming online here pretty soon. So we have 4 new projects. We made some $250,000 of facility upgrades to the bus terminal. We have $2 million for bus replacement and $1.3 million for the smaller vehicle replacement. And then we're also asking for about $150,000 of equipment for the buses, for the new buses. So overall, those are all projects that we're going to do at 100% FTA subsidy. And again, the bulk of the 16.8 is rollover projects that were already in the books. Any questions on that fund?
How many electric buses do you plan to run?
We have 2.
It's Route 4? No.
We typically put it on Route 4. Yes.
Okay. Both would be on Route 4.
And then the last fund is downtown services, and that we manage the parking garage downtown and then all the metered parking in the central business district. We didn't make any major changes. We do have a couple capital projects. Primarily, we're going to provide a clean agent system for a storage room where we have, not us, but one of our tenants has secured documents, and in order not to have the fire extinguisher with water, it's a different type of system for fire suppression that won't damage the documents. And then about $47,000 of replacement for the meters.
The parking at the airport is on the airport, not the...
Right, the parking at the airport is run separate. We do the parking garage and then parking in the downtown area.
We still have meters?
Yes.
What streets?
The only one where we don't have meters is on Main. We have, on Main we have the electronic meters.
Yeah, the kiosks.
Yeah, the kiosks. We still have meters.
And all the other streets we still have?
Yeah. We do have the ability for people to pay through the mobile app. So even though we don't have those kiosks, and you don't want to feed the meter with coins, you can pay through the app.
Right.
We will be looking at adding some additional kiosks in other streets. We're analyzing to see where we wanted to have those.
Okay.
Mario, where Maria's restaurant in the corner is? On
Yes.
15 and the church?
Uh-huh.
2 of them, I put 2 quarters in my bowl. No se mira. The
Okay.
little,
We'll take a look at them. So part of that is
I think they're old, yeah.
we're going to replace some of those mechanisms. So, but we'll take a look at them. You run it for Maria's?
Yeah, right next to Maria.
Okay. We can reimburse that.
Yeah, I need them. Al otro que no jala tampoco.
Liz, what do we generate in parking?
A little over 2 million, about 2.1, and actually Mario bid it out. We asked him to bid it out this last time that we went out for bids, because and he really helped us. When the contractors found out that they were submitting a bid, the price was reduced by about 150,000, the parking management price.
Is it Republic?
Republic, yeah. The other thing that we did in that parking lot is when the new parking management firm came in, or when they were renewed, we went ahead and inspect all his equipment, so that in the future, should we decide it could be a business opportunity for Mario to kind of run it for us, if his costs come lower than the contractor, it's easy for him because he'll be using the same equipment. So we kind of try to keep that seamless.
I have had some complaints about, long lines to get out.
Yes.
And, people lose their, whatever, and it's stalled. And it's greatly stalled if there's a problem. And what can happen? Because, I've heard that they'll spend 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes trying to get out.
Yes, it can be when everybody arrives. That long line is lengthy. What we did right away when we came in is we installed a third exit station. It's just that we're so constrained by the space. Our master plan does call for some parking options and additions. We're just not there yet. We've given high priority to all the airside expansion projects that we need to have in place to secure future growth options for runway alignments and for terminal expansion. But we will be working with Roy on that. We definitely try to be as flexible as we can with our customers. We do open up a second lot that currently is used by employees when there's a lot of traffic in summers and during Christmas, but it definitely is a challenge.
Okay.
Thank you, Liz.
questions on transit, we're pretty much,
When you get open?
thank you. For the North Hub, October, November, to be conservative, November. And so that will, once we open the facility, we'll also launch our service expansion in conjunction with
You
that.
launch your what?
Service expansion.
Oh.
We're adding some additional routes and frequencies on some routes.
So, I mean, the facility itself is ready to go, it's just accommodating or accommodating for the route expansion.
No,
No.
our facility is still, they're still doing some finish outs. We had some delays because of the power equipment.
The what?
The
Power equipment.
Oh, power equipment. 'Cause it looks real pretty from the outside. man.
It is, but it's still, there's still some
That's
stuff
chulo.
going on.
Okay.
Okay. Juan?
All right. Well, the first one we'll be seeing is the 560 account, which is your McAllen Hidalgo International Bridge. This year, we're estimating to end the year at $11,076,540, which is about $159,000 more than what was budgeted. If you can see, we're going to be going. Oh, okay, thanks. We're going to be going this next year at a 4% increase, which will be $11,400,753. Our expenses for this year, we came in below budget at $2.2 million. Our budget was 2.6. And our administration and general insurances, we were also under budget at $803,199, and our budget was $879,000. Now, interestingly enough, if you look down at the other financing, this year we're estimating to give the general fund $5.3 million. And going forward for the FY 2024, it was going to be $4.8 million. However, San Luis is doing very good. That if you look at the very bottom at the transfer that McAllen Hidalgo International Bridge is doing to transferring over to San Luis this year in FY 2024, you don't see it. So that goes straight to the general fund in McAllen. Any questions on that?
That's all.
And this is the first time we ever do that.
I was gonna say.
That was
That's
that was
money,
a
money.
good.
And that's without trucks, that's awesome.
And that's without trucks. Sure. Any questions on the McAllen Hidalgo International
Some
Bridge?
trucks, empty,
And
some empties.
so the next fund is the San Luis International Bridge, and as you know, San Luis is doing great. But there are several factors that contribute to this success, and one of them is how close we work with the state of Nuevo León and the state of Tamaulipas, and the municipalities around the highway tolls. And one of the reasons why that's important is because those small municipalities put the pressure on the state to have police presence in their areas, and it makes their citizens and our citizens and all tourism feel secure and are secure through those tolls. We see it with how we're going to end this year, and if you look at just the estimate ending based on the budget, we're finishing at $4.3 million, and our budget was $3.6 million, and that's just on vehicular traffic. This coming year, we're going to be very aggressive with the fund, and we're going to say that we're going to be ending up at $4.4 million, or $4,429,919. So for the total revenues, estimated for this year is $5.4 million, and our budget was $4.2 million. So that's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty awesome. We're finishing our operating expenses under budget at $372,000. As budget, the budget was $521,778, and the administration budget was $738,000. What we're ending up, and our budget was $830,000.
Good?
Any questions?
The arrangements that we have with the other cities,
All
We
happy as a clam.
they should be,
Yeah.
This-
City of Hidalgo was thrilled.
you good?
That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much. Commissioners?
Oh, yes. And we rest adjourned for the day.
Thank you, sir.